So I thought today I'd talk to you a little bit about no tools magic. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically I mean just that. Performing magic without the use of tools. Remember, what is witchcraft to begin with? Witchcraft is us manipulating energies. And when we say we're manipulating energies from this earthly plane of existence. So it's not just the earth proper, but anything on this plane of existence. So sometimes we may channel energies from the sun or the moon or the planets. And we also do it through our will. And yes, we also have intention. But, before we get started on the no tools part, let's talk a little bit about what is the difference between will and intention. So a lot of people say and talk about intention. Intention is key. Intention is important. Intention is part of it, but it's definitely not the most important part. And it's definitely not the only part. When we talk about intention, another way to think about it is replace that word with goal. What is our goal of our spell work? That is our intention. It's what we want to happen. Whereas will is us making what we want to happen. And that is the difference. You can't do a magical working without intention. You can't do a working without a goal. You can't do anything without a goal. You're basically would just be wandering aimlessly. So of course we have to have intention. We have to have a goal. But it's our will that actually bring forth and manifest what we are trying to accomplish. And so when you think of magic in that sense, you can see then that anything that we use, any tools, any ingredients, those are just things to either help direct energies or help draw energies from. But we are still, at the end of the day, using our will to do that. And so when we talk about doing magic without tools, some of the things that you can think about is symbology. Symbology is something that is very familiar to a lot of you. There are general symbols. There, for those in the US, there's the dollar sign. That's a symbol. That's a symbol for money. There are many different symbols in different cultures that you can use to represent what you are trying to attain. There's also sigils. Sigils are another form of symbolism that many of us use in our magical practice. That takes no tools whatsoever. You don't even need a paper and pen for that. You can just draw a sigil in the air with your finger into the dirt. And then you don't even have to use an image. There are what's known as audio sigils, where you use music and sound instead of the picture. There are mantra sigils, where you create words and sounds and repeat those over and over. And that is also another type of sigil. Other types of symbols are runes. So some of you use runes for divination, but runes can also be used for magical practice. You find the rune or runes that symbolize what you are trying to attain. You can take that one step further and do a bind rune. If you're not sure what a bind rune is, it's simply just a combination of runes. So you may take a couple of different runes that represent more holistically what you're trying to achieve, and then put them together in any way that you think works aesthetically, visually, and that's a bind rune. You can also use staves. So Icelandic staves exist, that a lot of them are actually pre-drawn, pre-made. They are ornate bind runes, really, in essence. And if you look up in some of the texts, the older texts, you'll be able to find some Icelandic staves that have some very specific meanings that you can use as well. You can choose to draw them. You can choose to just mimic and draw it in the air, draw it on your forehead, draw it on your arm with your finger. There doesn't have to be a physical representation of it. You know it's there. You drew it and you instilled it on your skin, your body, whatever. You can choose to use any symbols from really any cultures. Ogham from Ireland, you could use that. Another way you can perform magic without using any tools is through the use of your voice, through words. There's something known as words of power. Those are single words that you imbue with power, your will of your goal, your intention. They say that the more you use the word of power, the more that you chant it, that you focus on it, that it gains strength over time. Or you can expand on that. You can do full incantations or do what's known as oraciones, which in some I'm not sure what the name is in English because I've never said the name in English, but basically they're incantations that you would do. Some of these you can create, some of these you can receive from entities, some of these are pre-written, and you can choose one and then choose to simply repeat it and do an incantation with that. You can also create talismans. And you don't need a fancy, beautiful necklace. Yes, you can get something like this, something that I have here. But honestly, you have an old butterfly pendant that you still want to keep, you like to wear. You can use that, and you imbue your piece of jewelry, or you imbue an object with, again, what your magical goal is. And talismans, remember, don't need to be worn. It doesn't have to be something that you wear. You can hang it on your wall, hang it on your bedpost, hang it on anything, really. You can bury it. But it is an item that you've imbued with your intention through your will. Another way that you can perform magic without tools is simply with your hand. Your hand actually has, actually any part of your body, to be honest, can be used for magic. So there are a few systems and a few cultures that actually will create certain hand gestures to mean something. You can create your own. You can create a particular hand gesture that means something to only you. And so, like the words of power, each time that you use it and each time that you focus on it and work on it, it grows and grows in power. So, really, my point is there are a number of things that you can do to perform magic that has literally no need for tools. Now, you can even just go out into nature and draw on the energies from the trees, from the flowers, from the birds. Ask them for permission to channel their energies. Go out into the sun, under the moon, perform some hand gestures or perform some incantations, just channeling those powers. You are literally not holding or using anything but yourself. So give that a try. Tools, ingredients, those are nice to have. Don't get me wrong. I love my stuff. Okay? I do. I love my stuff. But I understand and recognize that's just stuff. And I don't need that stuff to perform magic. And it's not uncommon for me to do magic without my stuff. I hope that you can get to a point where you can do that too.